Welcome back, ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants. This is the Undead Matt here, obviously, and welcome to the new year, the new decade, 2020. It is going to be a, frightening one, but aren't they always? Well, good news is that you have your loyal punk rock horror podcast here with some amazing content. And today, it's another band showcase episode, and it's the first one of the year. Today, I'm really excited to bring on Johnny from Prison. It was awesome to talk to him, and the band Prison in general is just really awesome. If you haven't given them a listen yet, please check them out. They're really great. But Johnny got to sit with me and talk about some of the influences of what goes into his writing, into what the band does, and you know me, I don't really like spoil anything in the intro. I'd rather you guys listen to the interview and hear what's all there and what he talks about. And so, with that much well ado, welcome back again to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast. Let's get ready for a whole new year of bands, horror, and a lot more great content. With that being said, let's jump into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast, and welcome to the year 2020. It's nice to hear all of you again. Well, you're hearing me. But with that being said, we're back with a new band showcase episode, and this is the episodes where we bring on underground, up-and-coming bands that deserve that spotlight and deserve a little more attention. Today, I am joined by the amazing Johnny from the band Prison. Welcome, Johnny.
Dude, thank you for having me, and that amazing before my name. I appreciate that, and it reminds me of the amazing Jonathan. Have you ever seen that guy?
I know what you're talking about. Yes, I do.
Yeah, he's an absolute... When I was a kid, I was like, how the heck did that guy just eat a razor blade? And looking back, I'm like, man, I don't know if that's comedy at that point, you know?
Yeah, he actually has a docu... I think it's like a docu or fake docu-series on Hulu.
Yeah, I saw the documentary where they were like about other people making a documentary about him, and it melted my brain. It was like Inception.
What would you expect from the amazing Jonathan?
Yeah, exactly. It's right on brand.
Yeah, I saw that dude, his stand-up when Comedy Central was doing the low-key kind of like one-off stand-ups they would normally do, and that's how I saw him one day when I stayed home from school years ago and was pretending to be sick.
Ooh, I'm telling.
At this point, is whatever. But thank you. I mean, this is really exciting. Over here at the podcast, it was kind of when we found out about Prison, we saw guys play and open up for Slaughter to Prevail this past year over at down here in Denver, and it just blew my mind. I mean, everybody on that set list was awesome, but just being able to talk to you, you're a very down to earth person. So I was really looking forward to bringing you on and kind of talking to you and just talking about the band Prison. So let's jump into it. Who is Prison, and how did you guys get started?
That's such a vacuous question. Who is Prison? I want to be like, Prison is Legion, like we are none, we are nothing. But I don't have a crazy answer like that. So Prison is a 4-piece band from kind of all over the East Coast. So we just say we're from the East Coast. And we play heavy music with a positive message, which is apparently not super common. And how did we get started? We were all in other bands. So, I used to be in a band called Dark Sermon, and then our guitarist and our drummer were in a band called Adalia for a long time, and then our bassist was in 100 million bands. He was in Abacab and the Merciless Concept and in Alcatraz 1962, like a bunch of core bands from back in the day, and we just met each other and liked each other, and when our other bands were slowing down, we just saw an opportunity to pick Prison up and run with it, and I'm super glad we did.
So, one thing that you touched on that we're going to be talking about in this interview is that you bring a positive message to the heavy music that you make, which, and true, isn't too common for the most part. We've had even a very few bands come on here who are kind of in that similar style, who make heavy music and bring out a positive message, but it still seems very far between. So the question I want to ask is, what has this journey been like, being a band that has this very heavy sound but bringing a positive message? And the reason I ask is because usually we get a lot of pushback from elitists in this type of genre. So what has the reception been like for you guys?
Yeah, it is uniquely rewarding in that you have to be prepared for both sides to not like you. So you have to be prepared for kids who listen to positive music to be like, ugh, they're too heavy and dark, and how could they write music like that? And then you have to be ready for the pretty much exact disapproval from the opposite side. So kids who love heavy music and they're like, oh, how could they write these heavy slams and still talk about like positive messages and stuff? So part of it is just going into it understanding that, dude, no matter what type of music you make or what you write about, 50% of people are just not going to like it flat out. So if 50% aren't going to like it either way, you might as well try to make a positive impact because it's going to be the same net, you know?
Right. It's kind of like that joke when Metalocalypse, excuse me, was still around, where Nathan Explosion in one episode made a joke about putting the word xylophone in his lyrics, and when they asked him why, he just said, "Oh well, they can't understand what I'm saying anyways."
Yeah.
So like you might as well.
I try to have some diction. Like my mom has listened to some of our music and she was like, oh, I understood what you said there, and I'm like, yes. Heck yes.
I will say it is pretty easy to understand you guys, so I appreciate it as well. As much as a fan I am of the guttural monster vocals that I'm used to, I do like a band where I can actually tell what they're saying and not have to listen over and over very carefully to figure out what they're saying.
Yeah. We and honestly with the lyrics and stuff, we just try to present these topics in a way that kids won't get like turned off about. So we will talk about like abuse and addiction and consent and like really sort of serious topics. And we'll in the lyrics, our lyrics aren't like everything will be okay, everything's gonna be fine. I think that's what people expect when we say we have a positive message, but really the songs are like really honest and raw. And you know, if you just read the lyrics by themselves without seeing us or without watching a video or something, you might lose some of the context. But really what we're shooting for is to share honestly about this stuff, and then the result of advocacy is people feeling more confident in opening up. So that's really what we're trying to do. Like, we're not promising that everything will be beautiful and shiny and glittery, but we are saying that we're talking about this stuff and you deserve to feel a little better by talking about it as well.
You know, I'd have to agree with how you're saying that, because when I listen to your music, I definitely, there is this comfort, and even just viewing your pre-established fans and how they react to you guys, you do provide this level of comfort that I've noticed, where it's like what you said, you don't do things where it's just like, oh, it's going to be okay, what people would normally expect. You put these hard to talk about issues in a very brutal, honest light. And I think that's what really helps a lot of people. I know from just kind of like my perspective on my own end, my wife is a huge, huge fan of you guys because she, has a history of abuse that she came from, and hearing your music really helped her because this is the most honest and, in some cases, brutal for her way that she's ever heard it, but to her it means a lot because it actually sounds like something that she would write. And I think that's what's really cool about you guys, is that you know how to just put this into a palatable way that doesn't really cross any boundaries. And so I guess that's a long way around it. My question I want to ask is, what is some of the trials you face when writing this type of music? I mean, do you get to a point where you are worried that you're going to cross the line, or how do you normally feel these type of situations?
Always worried. I'm always worried that I'm going to cross the line. I mean, you almost can't write a song about rape without crossing lines. You know, right. Like, I don't know that there's any really careful, delicate, beautiful way that you can write a song to where everyone who hears it will appreciate it. Like, no matter what we do, these dude, remember that blue dress, or they were trying to figure out what color a dress was online?
Yeah, the white and gold, the blue and whatever dress.
So if people will argue until they're like hyperventilating with their best friends about something like that, like if something that trivial is that divisive, the more weight a subject holds, the more divisive it normally is. That's why people are like, well, I don't talk about religion and politics at the dinner table or whatever. So we are talking about things that are spoken about even less than politics and religion. We're talking about like very, very serious interpersonal topics. So every time I write a song, I understand that like this could be the death of my music career. Like, it gets taken the wrong way, and there's a bunch of articles about how we're the worst band in the world, or how we're insensitive, or how we're alienating our fan base, and all of a sudden, I mean, you don't have to do a lot to get canceled nowadays as a band. So we just, honestly, we're kind of like, our approach is we're going to share as consciously as possible, but at a certain point, no matter what you say, there's going to be people who don't appreciate the message or feel like you packaged it the wrong way, and I mean, that's going to happen for my whole life no matter what I say, so I just want to do my absolute best to connect with people who maybe don't have something to connect with. And if you think our version is too harsh or insensitive or it's not positive enough, I totally get that. And there's tons of other bands and resources out there who might be a better fit for you. But we are trying to appeal to a very unique audience, but also be inclusive at the same time, which is a tough balance to strike.
I would say, and obviously this is my own personal perspective again, but I think you guys are doing a great job of trying to balance both of these. Prior to this recording, we were talking about how you like to support anyone who is doing anything creative, and that you think there's kind of this toxic mindset around that sometimes with people not following through with it. And obviously I'm paraphrasing a little bit here. But I think that also kind of applies to the talk of mental health and to the talk of these very serious issues that people do face. I do think there is kind of a toxic mindset of not talking about it, because I do feel like a lot of people who have been through these situations are already in the mindset of, I can't talk about it, no one's going to understand, or I'm going to be blamed. Because we do kind of live in that environment. And I think you guys provide a great type of avenue for people to be like, look, it's okay, it's not okay what happened to you, but we understand. And with that, with art, it requires risk, especially when you connect with people. So I guess that's what I get to is I commend you for being willing to go this route, and for being willing to put yourself up for the vulnerability of being criticized this way. So bravo.
Heck yeah, dude. I appreciate that, and I encourage anyone listening to, if you are curious about speaking up or you're wondering what will happen, dude, some people are going to treat you weird, and some people won't. So don't, what I just want to tell you is people are going to like you or not like you no matter what, and those numbers will probably be the same no matter what you spend your time saying or doing, so you might as well say what you want to say and be yourself and open up about it, because you will be shocked at how many people genuinely give a crap about what's going on in your life.
Oh yeah. It's and if you are mad, by the way, feel free to put on some Prison and take your anger out by listening to some Prison. No, seriously, like, bravo, man. I mean, it definitely takes a lot of courage to kind of get on a mic, especially in the metal genre, in the metal community, and say, like, hey, feelings are okay, mental health, talking about this stuff is okay. Because there is also this mindset with metal right now where it's still just we gotta talk about brooding death and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And although I enjoy those songs, I also enjoy seeing bands like Prison and like even Ghost Inside, who do come out and talk about a lot of mental health and talk about ways to just kind of tackle it and approach it. So with that being said, one thing I also kind of want to point out is when I was at your show, what I really appreciated is not only did you take time to put aside to talk about, mental health, but you were also looking out for a lot of female metalheads at that show. You definitely put out a message of, it's okay, like, take care of each other, dance if you want to dance, get in the mosh pit if you want to dance, stuff like that. Do you have a lot of these shows where you have guys being overly aggro with women in the pit?
No. but I always want to carefully remind the men in the room that it is partially, it's something that we should keep in mind always, especially because women are such a minority in the metal and hardcore scene. And just like a lot of people would look out for their sister, or look out for their mom if she was at a show, trust me, my sister and my mom have been to shows, and you are at a different level of awareness, like of the pit, of people at the bar. You're just like always have an eye out. And I think that we shouldn't only treat women like that in the scene, but also just humans in general. When we look at people inside of a room all enjoying the same type of music, we got to remember that we are all already a really small, scrappy subculture. So I just want people to look around the room and see, let's say there's a couple hundred people there. I want them to think, this is my little subsection of community, and I want to do what I can to preserve it,
Absolutely, absolutely. So, coming back to Prison, coming back to your music, your latest release, Still Alive, came out not too long ago and has come out to a lot of praise. One single just sticking out from that album or the EP is the song Still Alive itself. Definite banger. I love it. I've been jamming it a lot. That You and Me and the Devil. So what has it been like making this latest release? Did you run into any heels? And if so, how did you get over those hills?
A big problem that we had was we have a butt ton of music, dude. We have like so much stuff written. And one of the main problems was like trying to figure out how to not, because we didn't want to put out a record with like 20 songs, but right. Then we also didn't even want to put out a record with 10 songs. Like we wanted to be very careful with the collection of songs that wound up on the record, because I think sometimes a lot of bands are like, these are all the songs we have done, and then we'll put them on the record, and then we're done. And I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but we wanted to be a little more intentional with the collection of songs that we wound up choosing. So I think a big challenge was A, trying to figure out the length and the content of the release, and then B, rewriting songs to match our current sound. So some of those songs that have cleans, like Obituary Son, for example, is the last track of the record. And originally that song had no clean singing. And the lyrics were decidedly different because I had started working on that song years ago, like 5 years ago. So revisiting it and breathing new life into the song, we changed the entire character of the song, like sonically, but then also the message it was trying to get across. So I think our biggest challenge was not only trying to figure out what was going to go on the record, but how to steer the songs that we chose to align with where we're headed as a band, because a lot of our fans have been asking for more clean singing, which is awesome because that is like the opposite of what happens to every other band. So we are working towards incorporating a lot more cleans into the new stuff, and we wanted to make sure that this record served as a bridge, so by the time we get to our next record, enough of our fans are like, oh, I knew this was going to happen, and they don't feel alienated.
If you could, do you have a favorite track off your latest release that you just absolutely love performing live?
Oh, performing live? I don't know. I know my favorite track is Obituary Son. That's like my absolute favorite. That might be my favorite thing I've ever done in music. I'm like so moved by that song. I cry and get goosebumps every. I don't even know if we would play that live. In terms of a live show, I don't know. I mean, we're still so early in the cycle. It's like, we've played Still Alive, we played Mental Illness, and You and Me. Probably You and Me and the Devil. Or Hell on Earth. Yeah. Probably You and Me or Hell on Earth, because those songs are so punctual. Like, Hell on Earth is like 2 minutes and change, and it's just like in and out. Absolute rager. And it's so much fun to watch people's. Like, I literally saw someone's jaw drop during the Hell on Earth breakdown at a show before. They were just like, they literally stopped moshing. They were in the middle of the pit. They stopped moshing, their mouth open, and they just stared at the stage. And they put their hands up near their head. Like it was, like they're like, I'm not going to move out of the pit. I'm just going to stand here and watch this. I'm like, heck yeah.
You know, when people talk about melting faces, that is literally the picture that they're depicting, is when a dude is putting his hands on his head and just,
Yeah, that freaking breakdown kind of, like, is uncharacteristically heavy for us, so I think a lot of people don't see it coming. It's super fun to watch people react to that.
I remember, I remember you performing that when you were here, and I think I had a similar reaction to that. I was just like, ugh.
It's unforgiving.
So, with that in mind, you know, Prison is a huge name in the underground scene, especially the hardcore underground. You guys are making a lot of strides and making a lot of traction. Do you have any big adventures coming up in the future? I know you kind of teased some things here and there on your Instagram, but maybe something that you could share with all the listeners across the nation?
Actually, no. Everything we're working on is, like, hyper top secret. You need like level 4 clearance to hear about any of it.
3.
But here's the long and short of it. We're just trying to be like the band that breaks all the rules. So whether that means touring with artists from other genres or you know, playing on Good Morning America or doing something insane like that, that's like what we're setting out to do. So hopefully in 2020 our goal is to do a few things that metal bands have never done or haven't done in years and years, and we want to be that like crazy guinea pig band where we're just like, yeah, we'll play like a bat mitzvah, or we will, you know, maybe not that. I don't know exactly how that would work. But we're just trying to sort of break and bend the rules and bring metal back into mainstream acceptance. So that's about as much as I can say, but I do hope that if you're listening, you follow along and expect some really wacky stuff from us next year. Or I guess this year, 2020.
I would say if you did play the bat mitzvah, that would be the best bat mitzvah ever. Like, did you guys hear Jerry's bat mitzvah had Prison? The pit was awesome.
I'll say this, I'm not opposed. In fact, I had this idea. You know what? I might actually pursue this again. So I was talking to the guys a few years ago about putting out this like offer that we would play a wedding. Like we'd just play one wedding. And just like if a fan was getting married, we would like legit like fly out or do whatever we had to do to come play that wedding. And you just reminded me that we had talked about that years ago. That was like before we were touring too. That was like years. I'm talking like 2015 maybe we were having that talk. So now that we're more established, it would be even funnier if we did that. So if you're listening and you're getting married and you want Prison to play, just give me a ring and we'll make it happen.
You know, my wife is she's gonna hear this interview, and then I guarantee she's gonna message me and say, "Hey, can we get divorced and then remarry so that way we can have a play?"
We'll play your vow renewal if you do one of those.
Great. Now I'm gonna have to fulfill the commitment for sure. I'm just kidding. I love my wife. I would do anything for her. So, I mean, I'm having fun talking to you, man. I mean, and I think that's one of the coolest things is that when I saw you for the first time, I have to kind of like also apologize because I thought, you know, I had the assumption that you were going to be a singer that wouldn't really give us the time and day, and then seeing you at the booth and getting to talk to you, like, completely just put that misconception in my mind and just reminded me to not always jump to those conclusions. Just because I've had... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. I didn't hear that you were still talking about that. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No worries. But, you know, the reason I say that is because I just had that happen before where I've gotten to talk to band members from bands that I really enjoy who just acted like that. And I try not to hold it against them because, I mean, I get it. Everybody's tired at that point. And so I kind of just want to give you another compliment with that, where you did put the time aside to talk to everyone. I could see you were definitely out of breath. but you were still willing to talk and hang out with people, take pictures. How do you? I guess not how do you, but what is the kind of advice you want to give to a fan who might be a little nervous coming up to you and wanting to talk to you, but is still a little nervous to do that? What would you want them to know?
I want them to know that I live in a van on tour. Like, how could you be scared of and intimidated by a 27-year-old who lives in a 2003 Ford E350? Like I have protein bars under my bunk. Like all my clothes are dirty. Like, here's the thing. Tour is the most humbling thing anybody can do. Like, you get on stage. If you get on stage and think that you're hot stuff and no one in the room matters besides you, the second you get off stage, you like need to poop or use deodorant or eat or something. You need to do like a human thing, and all of a sudden you're right back down there with the rest of us. So I would just say, if anyone's nervous about talking to someone in a band, just know that some people in bands they unfortunately are way too cool to talk to anybody, and that does happen. I try not to hold that against anybody, like you said, but sometimes you will be surprised at the level of musician that will give you the time of day, and it reminds you that, like one time I met Korn, like all of Korn, and I spent like 9 hours with them, literally, like before and then during the show. After the show, we hung out until like 3 a.m. and it wasn't like me and a jillion people. It was like me and Korn. And they were like, yeah, if you need to shower, you can use our showers, or if you need towels, or if you want to eat catering. And it was like, they were so accommodating. And I remember thinking like, okay, if the biggest rock band in the world right now, I guess, I don't know about rock, but like the biggest metal band is this accommodating, I can never treat anyone less than. So just, if you want to go up and talk to someone who's at the merch table, do it. If someone's like at a urinal or trying to like eat their dinner or something, then maybe think about a different time to try to do it, But if someone's at the merch table, they're likely there to see you and hug you and take a picture and listen. So I say go for it.
Right on. I love it. I love it, man. We're getting near the end here. I know you also got to get out by 2. So with that in mind, just last question I want to ask you is the same question we ask all the bands that come on for a band showcase episode, and that is, what is the craziest story that you're willing to share with us that has happened from a show that you have played?
Yeah, so this is always a tough question. I actually get asked this a lot in interviews, and I don't have any crazy, like, so I'm sober, and I go to bed at like 11 or midnight on tour, and I try to be, I like work out. I'm like a very like responsible, normal kind of guy on tour, so I don't really have any like, yeah, I woke up in a trash can or any stories like that. But one thing does come to mind. This was when I was touring in Darkstorm, and we played this place called Foufs. It's like Le Foufoun Electrique or something. I think it's in Montreal. And so we were on tour with Cattle Decapitation, and everything's loaded on stage, sound checked. Everybody else was backlined and sound checked, and then it was time for us to load on stage and sound check. So everything's loaded on, and I'm at the sound booth, and I'm just trying to like let the band play through a song, so I can hear how the band sounds in the mix before I get on stage and add my vocals. So I'm near the sound booth, and my band is just running through a song. Guy. So keep in mind, this is daytime. I forgot to mention that. So this is like, 2 p.m. So there's no kids there. Like, doors are not open. This is like, I mean, I don't know if listeners know what happens during the day at a venue, but it's like, all the band members are like shaving and, like putting clothes on and, like filing their taxes or whatever the heck they do during the day. I mean, it's like a little clubhouse where everyone's just trying to get their ducks in a row. So anyway, it's during the day, we're sound checking, and I'm by the sound booth, and a guy walks up onto the stage and picks up my microphone and puts the microphone, the head of the microphone in his mouth.
Oh.
And I was like, is this someone who works at the venue? And I kind of like looked around, no one was doing anything. I'm like, oh, maybe he's doing like this weird sound test where you like put the microphone really close to your mouth and see if it feeds back, and maybe I just thought he put it in his mouth because no one was doing anything. So I figured it was like a sound guy or something checking levels.
Okay.
And then so my band finishes the song and then everyone's just kind of looking around, and I asked the freaking sound guy's right next to me and didn't say anything. And I was like, "Hey, is this guy, does he work here?" And the sound guy was like, "You don't know him?" And I said, "No." And then they got security and escorted this guy out. It was just like a random guy from the street who walked right in. Nobody stopped him. It's like, middle of the day at a venue. He just walks right in, walks right up to the stage. And if you saw how many stairs he had to climb up, you would think it's even funnier, because there's like 30-something stairs and this huge wide staircase to even get to the venue, and then you have to walk up a side stage set of stairs. So this guy like was on a mission. He walks in from outside, clean up like 50 stairs, mission driven, and picks up my microphone and puts it right in his mouth while my band is on stage playing. And it was just a person who was. It's like, to this day I have no explanation as far as who he was or what he intended to do, like what his goal was, but I just remember being like, oh, that engineer is taking a really interesting approach to check for feedback. And then finding out he was just a random guy, and he didn't talk to anybody either. He didn't like say anything, So it was this very ominous, like, was he like an apparition or something? So yeah, to this day, if you are listening, sir, I bought a new microphone because of you, because I was so horrified by what happened. I cleaned the head of my microphone and then decided it wasn't clean enough, so I swapped the head and then eventually sold the microphone.
I bet it's a dude who had a bet with his friends saying, like, I would get on that stage.
Oh, yeah?
Just watch. And then he didn't think past that point.
Yeah, it's like, what then?
I didn't think I would get this far.
Yeah, if you are listening, I forgive you. It's water under the bridge, no sweat. I hope you won $15 from your friend for doing it.
That's so weird. That is so weird, man. That's just like, even if he wasn't a fan of you guys, like that's just so weird that he would come and just grab a mic and just put it in his mouth. Because we've all seen horror pictures of the community mics. So I mean,
yeah, but that's the thing. It was not a fan. It was not a person who attended the show. It was like just a person, like walking in off the street, like a normal person, like not a metal shirt. Not, I mean, I can't even explain how bizarre this was. Yeah, it wasn't a metalhead. It wasn't a fan. It was like a man, like
just
a human
Joe.
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm glad everyone's safe. Obviously, I mean, I'm glad everyone's safe. That is just really weird. That's I don't know if that's a mindset I would want to understand. So that being said, we're at the end here. Where can everyone go and follow and support Prison?
Dude, we pretty much only use Facebook and Instagram. We're pretty good at updating them. We're pretty bad at everything else. So on Facebook, I think it's like facebook.com/prisonfl, but you could also just search Prison. I hope to God we show up. And then on Instagram, Prison Lives, Lives, Prison Lives. And all of our relevant links are tied in there, like Spotify and merch and all that stuff. So I really hope that you guys take a listen and enjoy it, and then come catch us on tour, because we'll be out all year.
So, and those links will be in the episode notes or description below if you're listening on YouTube. Thank you again, Johnny. This was an awesome interview. It was awesome talking to you. You're a very down-to-earth person, and I enjoyed hanging out and talking with you and hearing about weird dudes that are putting mics in their mouths.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you, man. And with that, ghouls and gals, creeps and mutants everywhere, this band showcase is now over. That was my interview with Johnny from prison. Like I said, it was an awesome interview, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants. When I first talked to Johnny, I was really nervous, and generally I'm always really nervous when reaching out to bands, seeing if they want to come on the show, mainly just because, we are still an underground show, and with that comes its limitations. But the fact that Johnny was just like, hey, I'm down to jump on the show with you, I totally support anyone creating anything, really meant a lot to me. And with my anxiety that way it is and how it gets the better of me a lot of times, it really meant a lot that he was just a really kind guy, and it was just an awesome experience getting to talk to him and kind of hang out with him. I mean, I hung out with him through Skype, but still, it was awesome. And with that being said, we're going to jump into the songs that they sent us. And again, I want to give a huge thank you to all you ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants for tuning in and coming back for another year of horror. And another big thank you out to Johnny and the whole band at prison. Please check them out. Please follow them. Please give them support. Let's jump into their songs. Hell on Earth, You, Me, and the Devil, and Still Alive.
it's too soon. Now you and me and the devil makes three, and I don't mind the company, but I can tell this ain't a dream, cause I'm wide awake, so this one's gonna. You and me and the devil makes three, and I don't mind the company, but I can tell this ain't a dream, cause I'm wide awake, so this one's gonna hurt. It's just you and me and the devil. Now it's just you and me and the devil. So this one's gonna. Goodbye.